Namaste, people. Welcome to the show Get Set Green. I'm your host Pooja RV. This podcast was created as a part of Podcast Lab by India Film Project in association with Anchor by Spotify. We know that today global warming is increasing, and also we say that we have to reduce our carbon dioxide emissions. But have you ever thought that how to actually quantify the emissions, and even in the individual level, how exactly should we know that? Like, what is the contribution of each individual in global warming? So, you will have no answer, right? Like, how do we know? So, that is the question. So, here I have an answer for you. There is a person who is the creator of Cool the Globe app. What she is trying to do in this app is she is trying to set the individual targets so as to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions through her app. It sounds cool, isn't it? So let's know more about this from her. Welcome to the show, Prachi Shevgaonkar.
Hi Pooja, thank you so much for having me here.
Hello, it's my pleasure to have you on the show.
And I'm very happy to be interacting with everyone who's listening to this episode.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting one.
Yes.
So yeah, Prachi, I have my first question. That is, we know that the climate changing is an rising at an alarming point. That is, we need to take action towards it. But
Right.
let me tell what is my experience. Okay, so when I see the various kind of pollutions, plastic pollutions or other kind of air pollutions,
Right.
what I feel is that I feel so helpless, because even though I know
Absolutely.
what is happening, but I cannot do, like, I cannot take actions towards it. So that used to make me
Absolutely.
worried, and I feel I that used to make me feel so bad about me. I can say like it openly. So one thing I
Right.
want to ask you, that on the personal note, how did you cope up this? Like, did you also go through this phase? And how exactly did you come up with the idea? That's what we wanted to know.
Right. That's a very good question, Pooja, because not only did I face this myself, is the whole reason and idea behind how Cool the Globe started.
Okay.
So when I was in college, I first started hearing a lot about climate change, and not just about climate change, but also about the urgency of acting now. I learned about how we have only 3 decades to avoid the worst effects of climate change, how it's an
Correct.
extremely pressing issue. And I also learned about the role I was playing in it. So when I started hearing about all of these things, I could help but ask, what is it that an ordinary girl like me can do about big issues like climate change? And how you described it exactly, I couldn't really figure out what is it that I can do. And it was a very difficult question to answer. So I did what any young girl faced with a problem would do. I went to my parents and I asked them, what can I do about climate change? So we as a family then decided to start from our own home. We decided that we would start by reducing our own greenhouse gas emissions by 10% to start with.
Great.
So what we did was, we started researching on what activities of mine were leading to most greenhouse gas emissions. How could I reduce them? How could I measure them? And when I started doing that, something very interesting happened. Two interesting things actually. The first strange thing was that I started to enjoy it. It almost became like a fun game I was playing with my family. From the hopelessness of what's happening to this world, it was replaced with this newfound optimism that at least at my own level, I was doing something.
Correct.
The second strange thing was that so many of my friends, my relatives, my neighbors saw what I was doing. They came to me and said, "It looks like you're doing something different, and we would like to join in."
Oh, great.
That's when I started to think about, how can I take global citizens on this individual quest that I have taken on. And from this, the idea for an app, Cool the Globe, was born. So what I learned through this whole process was that our actions, day-to-day simple actions, no matter how small they seem, matter. Our actions have a very big power.
Hmm.
Us as an individual making small changes in our lifestyles, in our behaviors, has the power to create a ripple effect. to inspire many more people around us, and even to inspire the larger systemic changes needed to fight climate change. Um, that's essentially how Cool the Globe started, from the very feeling that you mentioned of not knowing what is it that I can do about climate change. And it just started from this very simple question that I asked myself, which was, how can the common man be involved in the fight against climate change? That's essentially how we began. And maybe later I would love to, even tell you how Cool the Globe works.
Okay, that was great, like starting from an idea, feeling the helplessness and hopelessness towards and taking the action. That's really cool to know. And also the app name itself says that cool the globe. So now I hope
Yes,
I feel that the audience can also relate to it to a greater extent because everyone goes through this. I feel so.
yes,
So Prachi, as we know that the calculation part, that is quantification of carbon footprinting, is not an easy task because as of now we don't have much of knowledge regarding that. So it's a new area. And of course, I can say that you being a media student, you should have faced certain challenges. Otherwise, because you wouldn't able to catch those things and also to convert those things into coding so that you can make an app where you can
exactly.
give the user an interface so as to when as and when there is an input you should be able to give an output. So I just wanted to
Absolutely.
ask you, so in this part, like how did you tackle all these things, like getting the standards it may be, or what kind of standards do you use in your app to quantify CO2?
Right, absolutely. So, like you rightly said, there was not a lot of material available on
Yes.
how to quantify individual actions. And it's very important because without quantification, we don't really know the impact our small changes are making. And that sort of stops people from continuing with their sustainability journey.
Yes.
So, when we decided to make the app, I I thought about, we started thinking not just with climate action, but to achieve anything at all, you need two things, right? You need a clear target in front of you, and you need to be able to measure your progress on that target. So that essentially we decided to do. Everybody gets a monthly and an annual target to reduce their emissions in the app. Now the difficult part was, how do we measure people's progress on that target? So all global institutions, including IPCC, have been time and again emphasizing on the importance of behavioral change and lifestyle changes to tackle climate change. But they have been hesitant to quantify it because it's not really easy to quantify individual actions. So we put a lot of time, effort, research into figuring out how we could do it. And we finally decided on, what measure we would use in the app to quantify this. And we decided that with each action that users are taking, they should be able to see the emissions they have avoided with that directly. So for
Great.
example, if I'm going to my office by a cycle instead of a car, and my office is 10 kilometers away, then in the app you can see that you saved almost 2 kg of CO2 equivalent emissions. Now, what I was, very certain about is that a lot of people these days know the calories behind their food. The
Yes.
same way, they should also know the emissions behind their actions. So, not only should they know the emissions behind the actions, they should also know how it was calculated. So, with each action in the app, people also get to see the emission factors which were used to get to that calculation. So all of these emission factors were available on the research in the research papers of all top institutions like IPCC, Edgar, World Bank, International Energy Agency. But it just needed hours and hours of research to sort of scour that up. To take that country's per capita GHG emissions averages. But we were very sure that all of this information should be readily available to the users now. So even in the
Yes.
health section of the app, people can see all the data that was used, the sources, and how it was calculated. Um, I think one of the best things of our times is that anybody can learn anything that they set their mind to.
Very true.
And so the reason I decided to work on Cool the Globe Cool the Globe was because citizens together for climate action. And when there weren't any, I thought, then we must do it ourselves. But
Yes.
we did not have any knowledge on emissions. We did not have any knowledge on even making an app. We did not have any know anybody in the ecosystem. So everything that we needed, we learned it ourselves and we researched for it ourselves. But I realized that once you start on a journey, there are so many people who would come to help you and support you.
Yeah.
So now there are a lot of industry experts who guided us along the way, who verified the numbers in the app, who showed us how we could calculate things. So it's with the help and support of a lot of people, hours and hours of sleepless nights and research, and the will to learn things ourselves is how we were able to move through the technical challenges in making this.
I'm happy to know that like you along the way everything falls into place. Like you got the support from the technical experts because of course you need certain guidance and mentorship to do certain things and which is
Absolutely.
totally new for you, like new field I can say. So, and
Absolutely.
also, not only that you did it well, of course, you have done it so well that you have got Young Green Crusader of the Year award from Olive Crown, and also you have the Taru Lalwani Award for environmental protection. So, how does that feel to you now? Like from being studying and having those sleepless nights, and now you are getting awards totally in environmental field, and that too for innovations, I must say. So, how does that feel?
I think more than the award itself, what matters is what it really means.
Yes.
I think the award is a sign that an ordinary girl like me can go on to create a community of citizens from around the world trying to make a difference. The award is a testimony to every young person with a dream to make some sort of an impact. And hopefully through these, if I'm able to inspire anybody else to also take off on their dreams and take off on their projects which seem impossible in the beginning, I think then it would have sort of come, uh, then it would have all made sense. So I think that's the intention behind.
You really do. You really do inspire people. And I know that the listeners who are listening to the podcast right now, they are all at least inspired so that they can think of taking or chasing their dreams towards it, whatever the dream may be, like regarding the environment or whatever they want to do. So I know that for sure they have got that enthusiasm seeing your story and listening to your story.
Thank you so much, Pooja.
One more thing, as
Yes.
as and when you started this like yeah, so researching about all these things, so and also you
Yes.
right now have the app, so I want to know about the interface, in the sense like how exactly a person who is downloading the app, what and
Yes.
all he should know, like those three factors you can say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
So, like I said, we started thinking, in order to achieve anything at all, you need to have a clear target in front of you, and you
Yes.
need to be able to measure your progress on that target. So, as soon as a user comes in, they will get a monthly and an annual target to reduce their own greenhouse gas emissions. Now,
Yes.
this target is usually 10% of the user's current carbon footprint or their country's per capita GHG emissions, and users can also set their own targets. Now, once that is done, they can see a host of simple day-to-day climate actions in the app that they can take up to meet their targets. So, from if I decide to carpool with my office colleagues instead of taking a car alone, I will get to see the emissions I've avoided by doing that. If I did not use AC for a whole day, I can see that I saved 5 kg of emissions. If I did not use my water heater for a whole month, I can see that I saved almost 14 kg of emissions. If I did not use 2 pairs of jeans, I can see that I saved 20 kg of GHG emissions. So I see the impact I'm making with my small actions. But then a lot of people think, what difference can one individual, one person make? But
Correct,
when
very
there are
true,
many
correct
people,
point.
yes, but when there are many people like you and I coming together, then our collective impact can be extraordinary. And to show that, we have a global meter in the app, which shows in the real time the collective emissions avoided by everyone on the platform. And so far, through grassroots, citizen-led word-of-mouth campaigns, we've been able to reach out to over 21,000 citizens from around the world have become our users. We have users from 55 countries, and we have
Great.
managed to reach over 2 million people from different corners of the world
Wonderful.
who have become part of the Globe movement.
That's very huge and also tremendous impact, because reaching out to so many people, it's kind of communicating, because at the end of the day, what we need is like we need to communicate our ideas that is regarding climate change. So, and I can say that you are doing it very well. So, thank you for doing this. Thank you for coming to the show. And also, audience, those of you who don't know GHG emissions, that is called as greenhouse gas emissions. So, what is greenhouse gas emissions in the sense? Those are the gases which are responsible for the climate change. For example, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxide, and other hydrofluorocarbons. All these come under GHG emissions. So, these emissions account to the climate change, and they are all taken as carbon dioxide equivalent, that is taking into account the effects of overall gases into one standard in comparison with CO2. So, that is CO2 equivalent. That's what she said. So, for those of you who didn't understand it.
Thank you everyone for sparing your precious time to listening to this. And also feel free to give feedbacks to your host via email prv480172@gmail.com. Or you can also connect with me on my social media handle at Namaste People. We'll come with a new story next week, so stay tuned.